What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the swing index code video. Where we left off, we finished off the calculation of K. I am not sure what this 2.8 is doing here. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Anyway, we finished the calculation of K here, and we've got L, R, and K being calculated. So now we are actually ready to complete our swing index function here and get an actual value of swing index. So now let's go ahead and get started, and let's look back at the picture. And we have this formula. As I said initially, we can't do a number in parentheses and expect Python to multiply like that. So we will have to fix that, but otherwise, the rest is going to work the same. So what I would suggest that we do is first we do the calculations of this top fraction here. Then we go ahead and do the calculation of this entire part here. Then we'll add the KL and the 50. And we will still calculate this all in one line, but we'll take it one step at a time so it's not too confusing. Otherwise, it's not just confusing, but it's really easy to actually screw up in the calculation. So that top part of the fraction, I'll just call it top frac for now, right? That was equal to what? It was equal to C2 minus C1 plus, and it was like 0.5, but we have to do it this way, right? 0.5 times something, and it was actually C2 minus O2. Then it was plus, and then again it was a multiplication of that parentheses there, so we've got to do this thing again. And it was C1 minus O1. So that's it. Let's go look at that one more time and make sure that's exactly what we wanted. C2O2, C1O1. Yes. And this was C2 minus C1 plus. Okay, so that's correct. So now let's add more to it. And what do we know? Well, we do know that this top part was divided by R. So we can literally just do, the whole frac was equal to, this divided by what? It was divided by R, but we need to throw this into parentheses. Divided by R, right? Then we know both sides of this fraction were multiplied. One side was by 50, the other side was by K divided by L. So now we can finish this off with SWIN equals, and we'll just take this, copy this, paste it here. We know this side, we'll throw all of this in parentheses, right? Because that's the whole fraction. We know that was multiplied by 50, and then on this side it was multiplied by K divided by L. So now we can delete this. No reason to recalculate that. And finally, we can print, I'm just going to print it like a couple pound signs there just to separate it from all the other values, and then print swing. So print the swing index. So we'll save that and run it. Hopefully no errors. We'll come over here, and we can see our swing index is a negative 1.96. So it's giving a negative signal, and that's it, because we only have really 1 day worth of data. Finally, really, what we need to do is, since this is swing index, we actually want it to return. It can still print out swing index if you want, but really, we need to return swing. So that whatever we could say, swing index equals, and we plug all the values in there that we want it to equal, and it will return the actual swing index. So now, for the next part, what I want to do is I'm just going to delete everything that prints stuff out, because we don't need to do it anymore. We're confident that everything is working. Mostly you just print for debugging purposes. So I'm going to go ahead and delete all of this printout, all these printouts rather, and delete this one. I think maybe we'll leave a printout of the swing index just to be safe. Come back down here, and I'll just have it print index. Okay, so now that we've done all of that, we are ready to plug this into our graphing chart. So if you're interested in plugging into the graphing chart that I showed you at the beginning of this series, continue on to the next video. Otherwise, if you want to just move on to the next formula, you can do that as well. It's very easy to plug it into the chart, and all the code is already there for you, so it's just one last step to see it visually for yourself. So anyways, stay tuned to the next video. As always, thanks for watching, thanks for the support and the subscriptions, and until next time. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the last part of the Swing Index Python tutorial series. Where we left off, we completed the calculation of our swing index here, and now we're ready to input it into the graph. So if you don't already have the code for the graph, it's right here on my website, syntax.com/startingpoint.py. Don't forget to capitalize the P in point. I'm going to go Control-A, copy, move this aside, and I think I put it under here, and just paste that code right in here. Now the next thing, just to show you guys, let's go ahead and run it. And the code for gold is gcz13.cmx. And actually, you know what? We're not going to be able to do intraday with this. Hold on, let me go. We're going to have to actually make a few edits. I lied to you guys. This will be a little bit more difficult. Let's see. Yeah, go to the top where you've got the range here. This says range 10 years. We actually want the range to be, we'll do 10 months. So we should be able to get away with that. And let's make sure that we can at least plot 10 months. Well, first we're going to have to make the changes. So we'll have to make some changes to this code real quick. And the reason we have to make that change is this data, we won't be able to get like 1 year's worth of pricing data for the futures. So what we'll have to do is get intraday data, and all the intraday data is plotted from chart or Yahoo Finance's API in Unix timestamps. And for the most part of these tutorial videos, we're not going to be using Unix timestamps. We're going to be using, it'll be long-term data with, it'll have nicer to use date stamps. So anyway, we're going to have to make some changes here. So the first thing, you want to come over here and change the quote range to actually 10 months. And that comes right underneath like graph data here. You go into the first try and its URL to visit. Change that to 10 months. The next thing that we're going to have to change is going to be scroll down just a little bit, and where you see split line equals each line dot split by comma. So we're just barely down, like a few more lines down. Go ahead, hit enter, and type fix me equals each line dot split, and split it by a comma. Oops, I'm sorry. That's going to be each line, or fix me equals split line 0. That's already there. There. So fix me is going to be a nice little value that we're going to use right before we append each line. So that's going to correspond to that Unix timestamp. Then we're going to come down here and convert that Unix timestamp to a date stamp so it works with the rest of our script here. So we're going to make a very long line, so just type with me. Each line equals each line dot replace. What do we want to replace? We're going to fix me. We want to replace that. Where do we want to replace that thing? It's going to be in the string version of date, or rather, what do we want to fix and what do we want to call it? The string version of date time. Sorry, I'm thinking of too many things at once. Date time dot from timestamp, and then parentheses here. What is the timestamp that we actually want to use? Well, we're going to use int fix me, and the reason why we have to use an int is because naturally it's going to read that as a string, right? So int fix me. Make sure you've got 2 closing parentheses there. Dot strftime, so it stands for string from time, and now we can specify what kind of little stamp we want this data to have. So percent capital, oops, make sure you put it in quotes here. Percent capital Y dash percent lowercase m dash percent lowercase d space percent capital H colon percent capital M semicolon %, S. And when we're all done, you should have 3 closing parentheses at the end. If I remember to, I'll throw this in the description of the video just because it's such a long line, you can't really get it all in one frame. And I want the text to be pretty big so it's easy to read as well as we're going. So yeah, now it will append that each line here and it won't be an issue. The last thing that we need to do though is take this stamp, because later on we're using a stamp. So copy the stamp right here, and we're going to come back over and now scroll down just a little bit to this converters where it has high P, low P, and all that stuff. Go over to your converters and see this stamp, replace that, paste that in there. Make sure you don't have too many there. Okay, so now it should chart it. Now just to be sure, we're going to go ahead and save it and run it. And I'll come over here now. And the actual name for this gold future, we're going to use gold December 13, is GCZ13.cmx. That's the little symbol. Let's see here. 1 second, let's try and debug this. Possibly there's not enough data. There's not 10 months worth of data. Let's do 1 month. Let's run that again. If you hit Alt-P, that'll just type in the same thing again. Nope, still not working. Let's try 10 days then. Maybe it doesn't even have a month. Looks like that's actually going to work for us. Cool. Hopefully. It's taking a while. There it goes. Oh, oh man, sorry to put you guys through the ringer. Actually, what we want to do, if you saw that, change that to 1 day, and then scroll over and scroll down a little bit. And after we've made all these changes, I highly suggest you keep this version of the script on hand. So you won't have to do this again if we get to another formula that's going to require this. And go to the part right underneath. You got while y, keep scrolling down where we define AX1 here. And then go to the spot where we say candlestick right here. And the width is 0.6. Add 3 zeros to that. 1, 2, 3. Run it one more time. And hopefully we have a better looking futures chart here. That's so much more attractive. Okay, so this is what we got, and where do we want to stick the cumulative swing index is right down here. So we're going to go ahead and do that, even though we've spent a long time fixing this graph, but that's okay. So now the next thing we want to do is add that in. So now go back over to where we made it, right? We made it right here. And what we're going to do is just highlight the entire thing all the way down to where it returns the swing index. Copy that, come back over to this script, just go up to the top here, and right here, just make some space and paste the entire function in there. Once you've done that, scroll on down. I made a little comment section where we'll add the new code. It's right here. At least I got that part going for you guys real nice and easy. And tab over, and now we can begin our script. So because this data is coming out as NumPy and all this stuff, it's very difficult to modify any NumPy arrays. So the easiest way I think I can convey how we're going to do this will be, first we'll have a swing index y, a swiney, equals empty parameters, and then we'll have a swin date equals empty parameters. If you decide to use my same kind of casing here, just make sure watch that for typos. And then we're going to say x equals 1. X will just be our starting point, and then we're going to say, wow, x is less than the length of date starting at the first 1 value, because we're also starting x at 1. Do the following, and date just corresponds to the day way up here where we're pulling the data from Yahoo's API, and we're just calling that first thing a date. Just in case you didn't follow that tutorial. And we have to start x at 1 because we need not only today's value, but we need yesterday's quote-unquote value. Even though this is 1 day's worth of data, the same kind of thing applies, right? Whenever you're working with time series, generally you call it more something like 1 bar of data. So when you're reading formulas, if they say day or if they say minute or whatever, just really you can treat that as 1 bar, right? It doesn't matter what the time series length is, but anywhere the time frame. Anyway, continuing on, we're going to encase this in a try and except loop. exception E. And if we hit an exception, we're just going to do x plus equals 1. Now, the next thing that we want to do is try, and y, right, the y variable, the y that we're going to plot, equals, and hopefully you guys are ready for a long line, swing index, so we're calling that parent function. And now you've got open 1, open 2, all that stuff. How are we going to do that? Well, we've got open P, which corresponds to the open price from Yahoo's data, and that's going to be x minus 1, right? Open 1 is yesterday's, right? So we're treating x like x is today. Now, and then open P x, then high P x minus 1, and then high P x, then low P x minus 1, then again low P, just straight up x, then close P x minus 1, then close P x, then finally the limit move. We're just going to throw in the 75 there. You could eventually develop a function that finds out the limit move for you, but for now we'll just throw it at 75 in there. Hit enter. We're done with that. Nice. And then we're going to go swine y, append y, so we'll append y to that, and then we'll also do swine date dot append whatever the date of x is, since x is the current date, and then x minus 1 will be the prior date, and so on. Subsequently, we'll do x plus equals 1, so we run through all of the prices out of the API. Finally, the last thing that we have to do is ax2.plot and SWI and date, right? That's the x variable. Y value is going to be swine y. Then we're just going to plot it with a white line, so we'll just put W. And then we'll say line width. We really could just leave it 1, but we'll make it kind of bold-ish with a 1.5. Okay, so that ought to work. We will find out in one moment. So we'll go ahead and run that. Come over here. Didn't get any syntax errors. Let's see if we got any other errors though. Run it. And it's printing out all the values for us. We didn't have to do that. Main loop x and y must have the first or the same first dimension. Let me see here. Let's check. The date is 1: we did actually have an issue. Append is not a valid thing. So, or append. Anyway, so we were probably hitting our exception every time. Let's go ahead and print string E of an exception if we hit it. We will hit it probably on the last value anyways, but anyway, well, let's run that one more time. You might get this error because it drew a graph and never got to show it. Come back over here, Alt P one last time. Probably should have stopped it from printing out yeah, we got a lot of errors there, but anyway, move this over. And now you can see down here that we've got our actual calculation. It does, you know, hover around 0. We're fairly confident in the calculation of that. Come over here. Let's zoom into this point here. You can see where it has crashed and it, you know, significantly went up for us. Let's find a good spot here. Let's just zoom into this spot here. Another interesting thing that we could do is we could, like we did with the RSI up here, is draw, you know, where we've marked only 70 and 30, or at least we could draw a very distinct line, a 0 line, right? So that's the idea, is like whenever it crosses over 0, it's either a bad thing or a good thing as far as trend is concerned. So yeah, you can keep that in mind there. So anyway, there's a lot of customization that you can do, but mostly I just wanted to show you guys the calculation of it, and then plot it up on this chart. And also, really, the data that we're using, at least for this chart from Yahoo's API, just wanted to keep it as simple as possible, so because we were plugging into Yahoo's API initially, and I just wanted to show you guys charting it. This is really more meant for one-day data, right? That's how he initially intended this to be used. So really, you'd want to use it with 1-day open, high, low, close data. But anyway, this is what you get. But you can plug pretty much any of your data through, and if you really wanted to do that, you can. If you watch the series on how we actually program this chart, you should have no problem at all doing that. So just keep that in mind. So anyway, that's going to conclude this tutorial video on the calculation of the swing index. Not really my favorite indicator, to be quite honest, but got to include it. It's a somewhat popular indicator that people like to use. So that's the indicator. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for the support, the subscriptions, and until next time.